Hello and welcome to Design Chat, the best live design discussion on the internet. I'm your host, Ryan McGovern. On Twitter, I'm at Hoopajoop and at Design Chat. Every week, we get together and bring together some of the coolest people from the design community and share our thoughts and ideas and passions and inspirations and talk about design, anything that's going on. And this week, we have a very special guest, Maria Grillo. Golf clap. Yay! Thank you, Maria, for coming out.
My pleasure.
Cool, cool.
How you doing?
So I'm good. I'm fantastic. How are you? Did you
Yeah.
survive the Chicago
Good.
tornado
I'm
that
fine.
just
Thank you very
flew
much.
through the town?
I did. I was wondering if we were going to be here with you tonight. If I was doing this from home, I wouldn't be because the power's out. So
I know. I think
good
we
thing I'm
both
here for it.
kind of got lucky here. And who knows though? There's more storms coming through tonight, and we could lose power in the middle of this. Anything can happen live.
We could. Yeah. Anything.
Gary Holmes in the chat room says he had an earthquake today. There was an earthquake just outside of Connecticut. I think it originated in Canada, though. So I'm curious if that would have
Wow.
been a big earthquake, dude. If you felt that, that's crazy. And I feel for him like specifically because we had an earthquake in Chicago. Maria, did you feel that? Like it was in January, I think it was.
I did feel it. It woke me in the middle of the night. It was like I don't know what time in the middle of the night it was, but I remember waking up and feeling my bed shaking. I actually did.
It the epicenter of that earthquake was 6 miles from my house as the bird flies. And it
Wow.
shook the
What time
hell
of
out
day
of our
was it? Do I
house. It
have
was
that right?
insane.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Was it the
we
middle of the
live
night?
in like South Elgin or Elgin, that's like right on the border there, and
Uh-huh.
I forget the name of the town, but it's a very
Mhm.
small town just outside of there. Um, so all right, so the first things first. The first thing we always do, just in case anyone is perhaps not familiar with the Grillo Group or Maria Grillo, what you do. Why don't you do just a sort of quick introduction, who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Okay. I'm Maria Grillo. I'm a designer. I do it, I've been doing it for, gosh, 20, almost 25 years. And I do it because I really enjoy it. And I really love coming to work every day. And you sort of wanted some history, huh? I start.
A little
I
bit, yeah.
started doing it. Let's see. I went to school at U of I in Champaign, and I graduated in 1998. Not really. Not really. I didn't really graduate in 1998. I graduated in 1985. But
I nodded like
I
yes,
worked for
yes.
Rick Valicenti. Yes, that was good. I appreciate that. Today's my birthday, by the way.
Happy
It is, and I'm
birthday! I
27
didn't
all
know
over again.
that.
Thank
I would
you.
have made a little
No,
design cake
not
for
many.
you.
Anyway, so I worked for Rick Valicenti for a while, and that was fantastic. And then I um, had a company of my own for a little while that was called Yellow with a person named Anthony Ma. And then I had a company of my really own, myself and an employee. And then I joined VSA as a partner for about 4.5 years in the middle 90s, the early 90s actually. And then in 96, I left that and opened the Grillo Group. And I've been doing that ever since. We
Hmm.
have a great group of people here, and we have a lot of fun. I love
So,
it.
how big is the Grillo Group? Where are you guys located, and what are your main clients like?
We're in Printers Row, which is South Dearborn at Polk Street in the city. We have a loft on the third floor of the Row building, which is a really great old 100-and-some-year-old building. Um, and there's four of us here. There's Catherine Walker and Gabrielle Schubart and Jason Harvey and myself. And we work on all sorts of different projects that range from, big identity programs for clients you might have heard of to much smaller projects for, small businesses or individuals. We do books. We do some signage. And we've actually done some murals and things associated with those projects that have been really exciting over the last couple of years. Um, it's a wide range of clients, and I guess that's one of the things I really like about it. It's a wide range of clients. There's always a strong planning element to what we do, and you know, yeah. Keep asking me questions.
The story really interests me where you know you had your own group, you worked in a couple small groups, and then you had your stint at VSA, you know, which has got to be a very different type of working environment, and you know had success there, and then made the choice to go back to you know heading up your own group again. Why don't you talk a little bit about the lifestyle changes and the work lifestyle changes that happen in those different types of environments for a designer?
Um, hmm. Well, I mean, the main lifestyle change that happened when I left VSA was that I was getting married, and I was, let's see, lifestyle changes. Well, I guess you know, VSA was a great place to be. It was absolutely exciting, and you know, working and being with fun people, and it was great. You know, I loved it, and it was also it required a lot of time, and I was used to putting in that much time. When I had businesses before I joined them, you know, I used to work into the night often. That was something I just did because I liked it, you know, and we'd go out on the town afterwards, and you know, we were young and having fun in the big city. And then at BSA, the same thing was really true. And then when I left BSA, it was I was going to change my priorities a little bit because I had a partner, and I wanted to let him know that I was interested in being with him and spending some time with him. And so I wanted to try and focus some of my effort on that. And you know, work was a great thing, but I found that I could be efficient and enjoy it between more normal work hours and have a relationship and start to spend time doing things outside of work that would fulfill me in a completely different way than work does in and of itself. It sort of, you know, helps you to have other interests and other things that you do to come to work and do a better job. It took me a while to realize
What were the
that.
differences,
I worked a lot.
the biggest differences you think in sort of the client relationships that you can form at a group like VSA versus the client relationships that you form at a group like yours, like the Grillo Group?
The differences in the client relationships. I don't know. I'm not sure what the differences would be. If it once they know who you are and what you know what you have to offer to them, there's probably a different perception coming in. I mean, BSA is a much larger firm than ours is for sure, so that would be a huge difference, I would think, if someone didn't know anything about either one of us and was comparing the two. That certainly would be a difference. But I think that I feel like we do a good job doing design work, and also we have a strong strategic element to the work that we do, and I don't use that word lightly. You know, that's something that's always been really important, is for us to make sure that we have a really solid reason for every decision that we make, and that we have a really good plan, a communications plan, or you know, some sort of fact-based thing that we're making decisions based on. So, in that regard, I think that we compete well with larger firms, and that's why I think we do compete with larger firms at times. You know, the other main difference is their VSAs just does visible stuff all the time. I mean, you know, they're different. We're completely different. And then it's funny because once in a while we do compete for similar projects. Am I answering your question?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Trying to think
I
of
always
other
love talking
differences.
about the sort of, I always love talking about the sort of translation in, you know, in how we sort of perceive our careers, like coming out of school and understanding the design side of it, but then understanding that it's also a business, right? And you, especially in groups
Mm-hmm.
like yours, where you know, you're responsible. There's other people involved, you know, so keeping that business going is, of course, extremely important. And the sort of growth that a designer needs to have from coming out of school and understanding that side of it. So, I mean, those are always the sort of, you know, fascinations that I have about, you know, because we talk to a lot of sort of entrepreneurial people who have started, you know, they worked in large
Mm-hmm.
agencies but have started their own groups. And I always love hearing about, you know, what clicked for you. At what point was it that you realized that I need to be in charge of my destiny and be able to decide what type of work that I'm going to do?
Uh, well, I guess that happened pretty early because after I worked for Rick and worked for about 4 months at Channel 11, so that was about 2 years into my, you know, time working as a designer out of school. That's when I opened my first business with another person, and it wasn't like some big, huge conscious decision that, oh, I have to, you know, I have to decide what kind of work I'm going to do. I just thought I really I want to do this. You know, it was just sort of and seemed like a natural thing to do, and I guess I didn't really think that hard about it because it just felt like the right thing to do. So I did it, and I've always done it ever since. And I find that when I'm in situations where, you know, there's somebody else who has something to say that makes me uncomfortable, then, you know, I remember why I'm doing it. You know, if we partner with another company, or I don't know, different situations create different sorts of relationships between people, and what can I say?
I heard
I
that
like this one.
lightning. Oh my
So
goodness, that was
I
loud.
continue to do it. Yeah.
I said lightning, thunder, Michael Pino. Um, uh, I should mention, I forgot to mention at the beginning here, because we weren't here last week. We broadcast from Samata Mason. It's a design agency in West Chicago. They're on Twitter. They are at Samata Mason on Twitter. Look them up, samatamason.com. Very cool agency here in West Chicago. Does amazing work and all around wonderful people. Sometimes we broadcast. I have to broadcast from the house and that sort of thing. Sometimes we're here. Depends on what's going on. But thanks to them, of course, for letting us broadcast from their agency here. And they also do every year. The upcoming one is going to be the third year they're doing the CUSP conference. CUSPconference.com. Check them out. Definitely sign up. Register now. There's plenty of open seats. Get in while you still can. That's my pitch.
That's a good pitch.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much. So talk a little bit about how your group sort of like the actual. Is there a focus on digital? Is there a focus on print? Is it you mentioned strategic already, and that sounds like something that you guys focus on and sort of the planning side of it. When you get a new client, how does the process start for you guys?
Well, there's a bunch of different questions in there, so let me see if I can answer them one at a time. When we get a new client, well, let me just say this. I guess the focus here is we do a lot of, seems like we do a lot of big programs of communications that may or may not involve an identity. They usually involve some positioning work or some communications planning, where the client is oftentimes in a situation where they're doing a good job at what it is with the service or product that they provide, but they're just not doing a very good job at telling people about what that is, you know, and how they do it. And so we work with them to find out as much as we can about what they're doing and what the unique elements of it are. We look at their audiences, of course, and we look at their competitors, and we try to figure out what stands out among the competitors and what's of the most interest to their audiences. It's pretty basic, you know. And then we come up with ideas based on that. I guess the other thing about it is most of the clients that a good percentage of the clients that we work with are offering usually a service, so it's usually something intangible, and I feel like that's something that we're good at. You know, is designing things for things you can't see, like, you know, an education, or, you know, healthcare, or something that is a decision that the audience is going to be highly involved in, you know, that they're going to be interested in information about whatever it is that they're going to be deciding whether or not to participate in or buy. In terms of how we work, everybody here is very involved in all aspects of the project. You know, I think we're a real team. I hope the people here would say that, you know, they feel as much a team member as I am. You know, I think that we just try to figure out what's the best idea and use it, you know. Like I say, it's just a matter of getting as much information together as we can, and trying to question ourselves and make sure that we're always trying to check back to see that whatever traits or positioning we've come up with is something we're always checking our work back against, to make sure that when we go to present, that it's nothing. It's not a surprise to the client. It's something that makes sense, and it's something that is comfortable for them, and hopefully feels natural to them, and that they can actually live with and be really excited about. Does that make sense?
I should also mention that we take, if you haven't been here for Design Chat before, we take questions from the audience. They can happen two ways. You can either submit a text question, and that'll pop up on the window, and then we can address it. Or we also take video questions. So if you have a webcam, you can hop on, and you just click on the red button to the right, submit a question, and sort of tell us what you're going to ask. We'll make sure your video feed's working okay. And then you can broadcast live and sort of have a face-to-face discussion, which is really fun. So please submit questions. Please do participate. So I read that you also at one point taught at the Art Institute. What sort of classes were you teaching there?
When I first started teaching at the Art Institute, I was teaching packaging of all things. But that was the class that they needed taught at the time. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I started teaching methodology, and I really enjoyed that a lot. Just helping the students to learn how to put information together and come up with a solution that made sense. Also, how to actually visualize something, because a lot of students, that seems to be the thing that they struggle with most, is they have this great idea, but they have a really hard time figuring out what to make it look like. So trying to help them get the information that they had reduced down to something that was focused and clear, so that they could focus their creative juices on something very specific rather than the whole world of possibilities, which would be enough to drive them or anyone else crazy. So that was a class I taught for a while, and then I thought that it would be really cool to bring in somebody who had a more business who was a business person. So I brought in my husband, whose name is Chuck Kratz, and he has an MBA from the University of Chicago, and also a degree in economics. And it was great to have him participate in the class with the students, because he was able to help them understand, how to put information together in a way that was different than I was able to help them do. So the two of us together could sort of come at it from opposite ends and end up with a combination of things that were actually very useful, and always sort of building and growing off of each other. We also taught at U of I in Champaign, and we did a thing at Syracuse for a while. So I really love teaching. It's something that I've actually done for a long time, and I hope we'll do again. I took a few years off to be with my kids.
So with how fast our sort of profession is changing, the way that we do our job and the way that we communicate today, with that in mind, what are skills that you think new students coming out of school might not have right now? That what are the important things for those people to focus on?
Well, I think that it's important for them to focus on, method, as always. They need to understand they need to think about design in a bigger way than just making things look nice. They need to think about how it affects the clients that they're doing the work for. How it affects the workings of their business from all the different aspects that you can imagine. And it's kind of difficult, because you can teach students some of those things in school. But there's also a lot of other things that they have to learn in school. They have to learn about visual things, and all of that takes time. So it's hard to say that they should be focusing in a different direction, but I think that they should make sure they pay attention to those sort of more research-oriented or planning sorts of things, so that they can have better reasons to share with the people that they are doing the work for about why they're choosing to do things the way that they are, rather than reasons that are just more personal or stylistic. I mean, that's what I believe.
Should also mention, part of the reason we sort of connected was because you are going to participate and are participating in the Archive 10 for the Society of Typographic Arts.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I will. It's really cool. I think it's so important to have an archive like that of just so that we can look back on it. A funny thing happened last year. I looked back at some of my own work that was in there, and I thought, oh my gosh, I wish I could get rid of this. I don't want it to be in there anymore. And they told me, no, you cannot, because it's part of the archive. And that was a really good answer. I realized after the fact, as much as I disliked what was there, it is good because it shows us what we were interested in and maybe things we were paying attention to that either aren't important or have become important again now. And it's a really cool thing. So everybody should definitely enter. And I have the poster right here. And Catherine and I were looking at it earlier on the screen. See, now it's right reading, Catherine. See that? Before, it was backwards. Before you and I were here together, it was backwards. All the type was backwards.
Yeah,
And
the
I'm not
video
sure
the
why,
video was flipped.
but maybe somebody knows.
Couldn't tell you. Also, there is going to be a gala event uh, and on August 26th. Live event, participate in the Chicago design community, come out August 26th. We put the link to STA in the chat room, so watch for that. DesignChat links puts up all the links for things we're talking about. And go sign up. Go sign up, submit your artwork, and get in, because it's important. It's important we do this. And I really can connect with that because it's part of the reason why we at DesignChat do what we do, because not only is this sort of a sharing thing for the community, but as these shows get recorded and put online, posted online for anyone to see, it's going to act in sort of a similar way. It's going to be a sort of a slice in time, part of the conversation that's going to be saved forever. I mean, it can just be on there. I mean, 100 years from now, someone might, if we're lucky enough, someone might look back at what's going on in Chicago right now at this time in design. And I think that's really exciting.
It is really exciting. It's a great thing. It's a great reason to enter a show. It's a better reason than entering lots of other ones, actually.
We've already got people submitting questions, so I think we should just jump off with a couple of those. We'll intersperse them throughout the conversation. The first one we're going to take tonight is from Michael Pino, who asks, what do you find yourself looking at for inspiration? Can you hear me? Yeah?
Okay, you're back. Yeah, I can hear you now. Let's see. I find myself looking at all sorts of different things. I find myself looking at pictures that my kids make, actually. I find myself looking at different painters. I find myself looking at, let's see, what else do I find myself looking at? Ben Shawn, I've always liked him a lot. I like a painter named Morris Graves. I like painters. I like looking at painters. And I, of course, like looking at the work of other designers. But I guess I always feel like I want to look at artwork because it's something that isn't necessarily part of every day when we're working on projects. I also like to go to do things that aren't anything to do with design, because I find that usually informs my thinking about what we're doing more than anything else. Yeah, it does. Keep asking me questions. I'm still warming up.
We can ask you questions all night. We just won't stop.
Go.
So is there, when you do those sort of side activities, are you talking specifically about art? Is there fine art that you do on the side to sort of inspire and keep your brain working and that sort of thing?
I like to paint. It's not something that I do, that I do in any public way, but I do really enjoy doing that, and I've just started doing it over again. I used to do it a lot when I was younger, before I had kids. And do you have children, Ryan?
No kids. All of our kids have 4 legs. They are either equine or dog or cat or as such.
Okay. Well, that'll keep you busy. At any rate, yeah. I wasn't doing much of anything except that and running back and forth to work when I was, when they were really young. But now there seems to be more time for that, so I've been spending some time doing that at home. I'm kind of a crafty person. I like making things. I like sewing, and I like just making just about anything. So I spend time doing that. I love gardening. That is like the most amazing thing to do. It's so
Awesome,
true.
awesome.
If I had to, it's totally awesome. If I was not a designer, I think that I would really want to be, well, if I was not a graphic designer, I think I'd want to be a landscape designer. That would be an amazing thing to do. Because it's
So
like
what do you grow?
designing
What's in your
something
garden?
it's like a website. It's always changing. All sorts of different things. We have a house that's a colonial revival house, and so it's kind of fun to do planted areas that reference time periods and to learn about plants that are native to the area or to a certain period in time. So it just really depends, but it's just amazing to see how they change and how the weather, and I mean these are such obvious things, but it's like all of the impacts that come to have that have a result on plants are similar to what we do here. It's like there's so many different things that impact what we do when we're thinking about people and how they respond to them. And a similar thing is true of plants, and they keep growing in all different ways. So I just love composing them. It's so much fun. I like buying them, a lot of them.
What would you say is the most interesting plant or thing that you've grown or possessed or had on your property?
I don't know. They're all so great. I don't know. The most amazing thing.
Can't just pick one?
I don't know if I can answer that question. No. They're all really great.
My wife and I do a garden. Last year we just got into pumpkins because we have a huge Halloween party every year, and so we actually got a pumpkin patch going last year. Got 26 pumpkins out of it. It's a huge crop. I can't believe how much space
Wow.
they took up. And then Allie, she said, let's do
Oh
more
my
this year. So we
gosh.
doubled the amount of plants that we bought for it, and it's just essentially it's going to take over the back corner of our yard. It's just absolutely insane. It's a lot of fun too.
Oh my gosh. 26 pumpkins. Wow, we have a really big yard, so I can't even be that focused on any one thing because there's so much to take care of, but it's kind of fun. But it's not like a focused effort like that. It's more like all around keeping it all going at the same time. But it is really fulfilling.
Completely.
I'd like to actually burn it. I wish I could burn it and do a prairie, a natural prairie. That would be amazing.
So that's sort of a normal way to start is you sort of burn everything off and let it come naturally?
Well, I mean, I only know some about it, but I think what you have to do is burn it. You do a controlled burn, and you have to learn the correct way to do it so you don't burn down the neighborhood. But you have to do that, I think, 2 or 3 times, and I think you have to sow the types of plants that you want to have grow there, especially if it's been grass or something that is, grass, for example, that's been there for many, many years. If you help it by sowing some of the seeds and then burn it down, the plants that are the strongest are natural to the prairie, so they will come up, and it's amazing.
So let's keep this going and
Somebody
ask
wants
another
prairie
design
gnomes.
question here from the audience.
Yeah.
Chris Ellison asks, as a self-taught designer with no degree, what can I do to get my foot in the door at an agency?
Just keep contacting them and send them interesting things, and just do something to make yourself stand out. Find out as much as just like anything else, as much as you find out as much as you can about them and what's important to them. Look at their work and try to contact them in ways that are specific and focused on them, so they'll be interested. Everybody's got an ego, and everybody loves it when you're paying attention to them. So that's probably the best way to get their attention.
It's funny you mentioned that because I recently heard of I think he was a designer. He's definitely in a creative field. And he was a young kid who was trying to get into agencies and that sort of thing. And you can't copy this idea because it's already been done. But what he did is he played on the egos of creative directors. And what he did is he created websites that indexed the specific creative directors' names. So when those creative directors Googled themselves, the first items that would come up would be this little website that this guy had created with his own resume saying, I want to work for you, give me a call. And it worked. It obviously worked because he got a job and that idea got published and people were talking about it. It was absolutely brilliant.
Well, it is absolutely brilliant, and it's pretty funny too, because they're sort of caught red-handed.
Exactly, and he's got their captive attention at that point. It's absolutely awesome. There was another guy who actually was on the show, Chuck Anderson, designer and illustrator and Photoshop guru and all around amazing creative person, who similarly wanted to get in at these agencies and wanted to get hired to do his work. And the internet was kind of new at that time. Well, kind of new. I mean, but what he was smart enough to do was look up all the different ways that email addresses worked, and so he would look into communication arts, and he'd find work at agencies that he liked, and then he'd look at the creative director's name, and then he would statistically or programmatically go down the list of all the different ways that an email address could be. So if it was like at ddbagency.com and you knew that was their URL for their email, it'd be like first letter dot last name, and then he'd go down and he'd just spam until he actually got one that worked, and he would be sending them work exactly like you just suggested. If you really want to get your foot in the door and you think your work is good enough to send to these people, send it to them and they will react to it.
Well, as long as you don't annoy the heck out of them, I suppose it's fine. Yeah, but
Yeah, it could backfire. It could totally backfire if they don't like you.
could.
But hey, if you think your work is good, like if you really think it's amazing, then I think you should do it.
Well, I think you should. Yeah, you should use anything that you have to connect to that person. And sooner or later, if they don't appreciate your persistence, maybe they'll appreciate something else and give you a chance to talk with them.
Yeah, if your emails are good enough, maybe they'll hire you as a copywriter. Who knows? Anything can happen.
Maybe send them a letter. Send them something else.
Yeah, traditional mail, snail mail sort of letter. People don't do that anymore. That'd be unexpected. I like that angle.
Sometimes,
So let's do a video question. We've got a video question here from Dan Shapiro. Dan, if you're ready, we're ready to go to take your call, if you will, Joe. Bring them on.
Hey there. Okay, so my question was related to packaging because we don't really talk about that much on here. And what are your thoughts on the direction packaging is heading? We were talking. Ryan was talking to you about that a little bit, where design is progressing and it's moving in all sorts of new directions. What are your thoughts on how that applies to packaging design?
Thanks, Dan.
well, I'm sure it probably applies to packaging design in similar ways. Gosh, how does it apply to packaging design? It seems like it would apply to packaging design just as it applies to any type of design. Can you ask me a little bit more specific a question?
Oh, I dropped him already. Maybe he's talking a little bit about sort of how packaging design is being affected by anything else that's going on right now. So you're seeing no delineation. You're seeing no all the same. It's a practice that as long as you're applying your core design skills, there's nothing specific about packaging right now that really sets it apart or is a different practice or a different way of thinking than other design practices that are popular right now.
Well, I'm sure that there are. I mean, just as there are for designing a website, there is a difference between that and walking into a store and looking at something that's sitting on a shelf in front of you and the way the light falls on it and the color. All of that I'm sure makes a difference. But I would think that the method would still be the same between packaging or any sort of design process. Maybe it's the production then that would be the production aspects of it that would have an effect that's different given the current technologies or just what's going on in the world of design. But I wouldn't think that I wouldn't think that the process would be all that different. It shouldn't be.
Good point. Good point. It really shouldn't be, because if you have your core set of skills, and the methodology of how you approach a design problem or a challenge, it really should be the sort of same thing. I totally understand that. We're going to take a question now from Gary Holmes, who asks, Maria, what gives you the most joy?
The most joy in design, let's see. The thing that gives me the most joy in design is working with a client that really wants to try to do things the right way. And when I say the right way, I mean they really want to follow up on what they do. They want to learn about their audiences. They really want to understand their competitors. They really want to find all this stuff out. They're not afraid to hear good, bad, and indifferent information about the reality of what their company is or what it's facing or the things that they might have to do in order to move it to the next level. And if people are willing to do that, I feel like that's when we do our best work, and those are great relationships that last a really long time, and that just gives me a whole ton of joy to do that. I find that really, really so much fun and so challenging and so rewarding. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the biggest, most visible client in the world, but doesn't hurt if it is. It's just anybody who really wants to do it right, because oftentimes some of the larger ones aren't ready to, you know.
On that note, do you find yourself in the position where you have to say no to a client, where they're asking you to do something that maybe either you think is not the right approach, or it's not the way that you want to work, or something like that? Are there moments like that for your group?
I don't know that I say no so much as I would tell them why I thought there was a better way to do it and why I thought what it was they were suggesting didn't make sense. And depending on what it was, I mean, if it was something that I found, you know, completely disagreeable for some reason that I couldn't live with doing it, then I wouldn't do it. But if it was something that it wasn't, wasn't a huge sacrifice, then I certainly would consider it, because the other side of that coin is, maybe they know something that I don't or that I don't understand yet. So hopefully there's enough time to confirm what really is the best solution in a situation like that. And I always, we have really good relationships with the people we work with, and they aren't necessarily, they aren't coming to us to tell us what to do. I mean, it's very interactive, and there's a lot of exchange, and so it's rare for someone to come and say, do this thing without there being a whole lot of good discussion around why and when and how and if.
What sort of trends in design right now are you seeing that are either agreeable or disagreeable? Whether it has to do with technology or style or something like that. What's popping out to you right now that's happening, that's catching your eye?
It's catching my eye. Well, one thing that I noticed is that there's consistently so much that's pretty good to look at around. I think things have improved a lot. That it's often rare, or more rare, to find things that are really, really not good on some small level, or even in some larger way. And that's an interesting thing, because as people become more used to seeing things that are better designed, I'm not sure that it necessarily means that they understand that that's what they're seeing. So one disconnect that I notice is that they may have the ability to make something look better, but they may not understand the process that's behind making that thing better. And so it's difficult for them to request that, or to try and get that when they actually have something. I'm thinking of a client in this case, or somebody who comes to you and they have something they feel they need to do. They don't always necessarily understand what has to go into that in order to make it really work, in addition to the fact that it looks good. Did that make any sense?
Completely. Yeah.
Good.
Is my voice dropping off again?
So I think it's really important for... No. I think it's important for people one thing I really want to do is help them understand the process, so that they can see the value of what we're doing in a bigger way than just making things look nice, because lots of people can do that.
Is that a constant challenge that you have to face in sort of before, during, and after, at all times, discussing the value in what you're doing and what you're bringing to the table. Um, yeah, I tend to ask too many questions all
I
at the
think
same
you,
time. My head, it goes too fast. Sorry.
no, that's fine. That's fine. Obviously I need some help because when you don't ask questions, I become silent. um, let's see. Uh, no, it's not something that we have to continue to do over and over because usually if we have a relationship with someone or we would get a new client or something, they've decided that they're going to work with us and they're going to trust us and that we don't have to hopefully we don't have to continue to sell ourselves each time that we're meeting or else it isn't going that well, right? So I hope always that by just talking about, by having a discussion and asking good questions and having a, productive exchange, that they come to the point where they trust us, so they're not thinking about whether or not we can do it. They can see that we are doing it, and they can not have to worry about that. It's like looking at something. You don't want people to look at it and say, "Oh, that's a really nice design." You want them to look at it and say, "Gosh, I'm so engaged with this information." So I don't want them to be thinking about whether or not we can.
Tomorrow night, yet another STA event, which they're calling Chicago, I believe Chicago Legends. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat room, please. Robert Vogel, who is the V in Vogel stands for the V in VSA, is speaking and having a community discussion. And Mike, I'm not a design historian. I'm not up to par on everybody who's involved in all spaces. It's definitely an event that I would suggest anyone in Chicago go to because it's going to be interesting. What was he with VSA when you were still working there, and what can you tell us about him?
Yes, he was. Well, Bob has been around in Chicago for a very long time. He's like a legend. He was around in Chicago when things were really, when design was becoming a more respected profession. He had a very successful business that was really on the cutting edge of corporate design as people knew it. And he would be somebody that would be really interesting to listen to because he's seen so many changes in our profession and he's so interested in observing those changes. So I think that he would be a very interesting person to listen to talk. He's very bold, very truthful. If you think something, you'll know it. And yeah, that's what I think.
Cool. So everybody check that out. Definitely STA is putting on a lot of good events in Chicago right now. If you're not from Chicago, come visit. You should. There's a lot of cool things happening here. Another question from the audience.
Yes.
Rue the Dude is asking, how important do you think a degree...
Dude. Well, I don't think it's necessarily matters at all if you're able to convince people that you're really good at what you're going to do for them. Rick Valicenti doesn't have a degree in design. He's doing pretty well. Right.
They're telling me that my audio keeps on dropping off in my questions. Rue the Dude.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we're saying that it's not something that like a piece of paper that says you graduated from a design school. It doesn't mean automatically that you're going to be a good designer and successful and all of that. It means that you've gotten through a program and you've shown some level of proficiency, but it's not a ticket that says I am a good designer, because as we all know, if you've worked in industry long enough, there are plenty of people who got through school who don't function very well at work. It's just not their environment. It's not their deal. So it's my feelings on it anyway. It's not something that it says you're going to be successful. It's always about sort of where you take it in your own perspectives and being bold and taking chances and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the only thing I could think of about a degree that might have some impact on your pursuit of a job would be whether or not people perceive a specific degree to be more impressive than another. So you might have a little bit more work to do, where somebody could come and say, "Oh, I have a degree from Joe Blow University," if you can't say that, then you need to give them some other thing to latch onto so they can sort of place you, in their mind, in their experience of where different people come from and what that might mean in terms of the education they have, just as a really basic thing that they can start out with to think about who you might be or what you might know. And maybe that's an opportunity too, because you don't have that sort of a degree. But I don't think you need one. Not if no, you don't need one. Read a lot of books. You can do lots of other things, and if you can convince people of that, then that's all you need to do. You got to convince them anyway.
You mentioned that you work with Rick Valicenti for I believe it's 2 or 4 years. But tell us a little bit about that experience and sort of philosophies and things that you picked up while you were there in the way that he sort of works day to day.
I worked for him for 1 year and 3 quarters, to be exact.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I actually, I went to high school with his brother, and I used that in my favor when I was pursuing a job with him. His brother asked me to homecoming. I made sure I told him that. I used
that is an angle.
Italian,
that's awesome.
Oh yeah, I came up with it. Oh yeah. Well, why not? I really was impressed with him, and I really, really wanted to work for him. And let's see, what was it like to work with him? He's amazing. You just want to please the guy because he's amazing. He just has so many ideas, and he's so sensitive and blunt, and like every extreme thing you can imagine all rolled up into one guy who you just can't help but admire and love. And it was a great experience. And he used to do things like he would give you a really great project, and then he'd say, "Oh, Rick, can you look at this?" I had a project. It gave me a poster project, and that was the choice morsel back in those days, and as it would be now. And I worked on it, and I worked on it, and I was freaking out about it basically. And I went to him and I said, "I really want to talk to you about this project. Can you please take a look at what I've been doing?" He goes, "I don't have time for this right now, Maria." And at that moment, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to fail, And then I realized later that that was the biggest favor he could ever have done for me, was to just tell me to go figure it out, And he's really good at that. He's really good at. He's really good. He's able to help you through things like that, and he gives an awful lot, I think, to the people he works with. He really does. Kind of like the guy, as you might be able to tell.
We're sensing that. We're picking that up a little bit.
Wow.
Another question here from Joseph Marsh, who's asking, how have you ever had a client work that conflicted with another client's work or business?
Have I had them? I've had situations where I had to, let a current client know that there was a potential conflict of interest, and unless it was obvious to me that I simply couldn't do both at the same time, then I just didn't do it. And I told the people, that were the conflict that we unfortunately couldn't take the work because we had a conflict of interest. But if I wasn't sure, or I thought that maybe there might be a way to work it out, I would contact the client that we were currently doing the work with and talk to them about it and see how they felt. And in some situations they say, "No problem, that's fine. We know that you're going to do what's right for them. What's right for them is different than what's right for us," and whatever. And in other cases it's like, "No, we're not comfortable with that," and that's the way it goes. So yeah, we've definitely been in situations like that, and that's how I've dealt with them.
I always find that because I'm sort of picturing myself in that situation, if I'm starting to see a potential problem and it means I might lose business, I can see in that situation I might start getting some sort of anxiety, right? Like, oh man, I don't even want to bring it up, like it could cause a problem, and then these people might be angry, and it's just going to be a whole big mess. And right, and every time I start to get that feeling, the voice goes off in my head that says, all right, because you feel that anxiety, and there is that question, do it now. If you don't do it now, it just gets worse. And the longer you wait, the worse that anxiety gets, and then it's just going to cause more and more problems. So I always feel it's best to just approach it right away, and it's all going to work. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world if one thing happens. A client clients can come and go, right? And it's all about how you approach it as a professional that's going to sort of put you in the right position to succeed maybe later if that doesn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that the minute you find out that there's a potential conflict that you want to pick up the phone and call the other client. I mean, I'm not saying that you were necessarily suggesting that, but sometimes it's good to think about it for a couple of days, make sure you approach it the right way, and, but yeah, it's always better to be truthful with people, obviously, just as you would in anything else, and keep everybody comfortable, but there are times when you wish you could do it, but usually it seems to me, I can't remember a time when it hasn't worked out for the better in the end that we didn't.
The last sort of question for me is, I'm always curious because we're sort of working in a social media way to do this and communicate and bring design community together. How has the influence of social media and the emergence of it affected your business? Is it something you incorporate? Is it something that you involve in your strategy with your clients? Where does that sit on the radar map for you?
It's something that we involve with our clients, and it's something that we're incorporating more so now. I mean, honestly, we're just updating our website for the second time in like way too long. So, yeah, we're incorporating it. We're in the process of doing that in a more consistent way. But I can't say that it's something that I've been like all over incorporating in the way we promote ourselves until now. So, but we're working on it. Tweets.
Well, we will watch your tweets. On Twitter, you are at Grillo Group. Grillo Group, yeah, I'm saying that right. So everybody add them. And if you weren't here earlier when we requested it, put your Twitter handle in the chat room so everybody here can follow each other and the design community can get that much stronger. Thank you, Mig Reyes. Very awesome. I'm seeing another question here pop up. We're going to keep on taking questions until you guys run out of questions. So keep on asking them. Video questions. Do the video questions. That's the most awesome thing here because not a lot of people are doing this right now. Not a lot of people are having this video live conversations. And this is a real opportunity to jump in and sort of actively participate in the design community and sort of get your voice heard or get your thoughts heard on what's going on right now in your world. So on that note, Paul Stonier, in what way does technology shape the way you approach a problem worth solving?
Problem worth solving. Well, in what way does technology shape the way you approach a problem worth solving? It doesn't shape the way I approach a problem or solving any problem necessarily, because I would always be, before I would be thinking about, when you say technology, I'm thinking about, media, not like, when we sit down to think about how we're going to address something, it's not the technology that's the issue, it's the content. And so we're thinking about, what the messages are and who needs to hear them and how they should be said, and what is the way that we're going to tell people what they need to be told, or what this organization or whatever wants to tell them in a way that's interesting and useful to them. So it doesn't really come into the picture until we're at the point where we're determining what are the best ways to deliver the messages and what are the things that will help us do that.
We've had the subject a couple times recently where the thought is sort of emerging that for so long now, technology has directly influenced our design, and how we create images and sort of the role that technology plays. And then it's gotten so good now. The computers are so fast, the tools are so easy to use that we're sort of starting down a path where it's not directly influencing the way our images and typography are created anymore, right? Where there's sort of a movement towards 3D typography, towards handmade objects, where you can't really tell exactly how that one thing was made. It's not like you can look at it and say, look at everything and say, that was somebody just used that little filter, and that's all. That's all they did to it. What are your thoughts on that, and sort of
Mm-hmm.
how technology is influencing the design work, the actual creation of imagery that you guys do?
Well, I think what you just said is true. It just makes it easier to get certain things done, and but it's great that we've come to a point where it doesn't replace some of those other qualities that you would see in design work, like you mentioned, something that's hand generated or that's not something you found in a computer, or a tool you found on a computer to use. Um, it isn't influencing the final result maybe as in such an obvious way as it once was, or when it was a lot newer. When everybody was all excited about being able to draw a perfect oval without any trouble. So, what you said I think makes sense. What else
Well,
can I
we're
tell
getting
you about? Hand rendered.
anything you want. What's on your mind? What's going on?
Yeah.
What's your favorite project right
What's
now?
on my mind? Let's see. Well, my favorite
Besides your
project
garden.
right now. Let's see. We just finished a couple of books that have been favorite projects. We just finished a project. Well, it's not really recent, but it's still one of my burning favorites. It's Hyde Park Bank. We did a bunch of signage and some exterior and interior murals for them. They have a real estate loan servicing center. It's up on Elston. It's totally the most beautiful building. Paul Florian Architects designed it, and Tim Goodsell, who's the president at Hyde Park Bank, is really visionary. He's just Paul did an amazing installation for him down at the main bank in Hyde Park, and this location is just spectacular. It's the kind of place you could live, and it was just really great to be in a situation with people who allowed us to make suggestions that were above and beyond, outside of what we were being asked to do, and it was just an amazing thing. It was an interior design magazine. You could see it there. There's I think that you probably could go there and see it. Do we have a magazine around here?
Oh, that'd be awesome if you had that. You could show it on the screen. Otherwise, you said it's on their website.
Yeah, I can show you.
Catherine Walker just
Yeah.
put a link to the Interior Design Mag site in the chat room.
There it is.
Awesome. And that's in Hyde Park, you said?
No, this one is in Chicago on Elston Avenue.
Okay.
So you can see that's the mural. This is the mural outside, and these are the wallpaper murals on the inside. The idea was
Very cool.
to, they're making real estate loans. So we said, how about if we took numbers and made them into volumes, like volumes like buildings, like real estate. So there's 3 or 4 different iterations of numbers and how they become, how they relate to that whole transaction and the final result, which is a building. But yeah, we do all sorts of different things. There's so many. Hey, I have another cool thing I could show you. Could I show you one more thing?
Let's see it.
This is my other favorite project. This is a book that I designed
that's a
to
book.
present to my child's kindergarten class about graphic design. Yeah. And
cool.
this was it is totally cool because, did you know that kindergartners are thinking about many of the same things that we think about every day? Like, people say, well, designers know how to make connections between things. That's something that's special about designers. That's one of the subjects of kindergarten class is the idea of making connections and how important that is in life. So some of the things that they're discussing, I started to think are so related to what I do. They have this career day thing, where all the doctors are walking in all dressed up and the policemen, and I was the designer going in there to present mine. So I made this book. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool.
It was totally cool. I haven't stayed up till 3 in the morning working on anything in like forever, but I did working on this.
What was the thing in the book that the kids reacted to the most?
They loved this. This is, let's see, I can't get it in there for you. they asked about the things we love about, or that I love about what I do. So I told them about the 8 things that I love, and this is one of them. It is there's so many different ways to look at the same thing, and all the kids went, "Oh, we get that idea." Making connections.
And when can we buy this
Or
at
that we're learning
Borders?
so many different things. We're working on it. And all the different people that you learn about when you do design, and what's important to them, and how interesting that is. And working with type and pattern, color. They all know about color. Anyway, it's just fun.
Oh, that's very exciting. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you were saying you're working on a new website. When can everybody expect to see that?
Hopefully, really, really soon, because it's really getting close to being done. It's going to be really cool. I love the functionality of it, so I'm really excited about that. And I'm just so glad that the work won't be so old anymore. I can't wait to get some new stuff up in a way that we can keep updating it a lot. So yeah, it should
So
be within
everybody
the next,
be on
I
the
hope, 2-3 weeks.
everybody be on the lookout for that. GrilloGroup.com on Twitter. They're at Grillo Group. Maria, thank you so much again for coming out. Everybody look for her at the gala event for the Archive 10, August 26th. Go register for that at sta-chicago.com. I think I'm saying it right. We're going to put it in the chat room just in case I'm wrong. So thanks again for coming. Bravo. Good job.
Thank you.
And everybody, DesignChat, we do this every week. We will be here next week. We will be here the week after that. And I promise, I know I am so behind on uploading the last handful of shows. It will happen. I truly promise you, if I absolutely have to go without sleep for the next month, I will get it done. I promise. So check back at designchat.info for that. We love you guys. We love the design community. And we will see you guys very soon.